As a man, there's times in our lives when we find ourselves at a crossroads. And it's at these times we have to muster our courage and rise up to make the right decision. For me today, that was to build an astounding model kit, an iconic mecha that stands as a memorial to a fallen unknown soldier, the Master Grade Stark Jegan. Or build the Gangsuosi, a Chinese manufactured model kit of a stolen design that simultaneously breaches copyright on not one, not two, but 3 huge Japanese icons. I could have been snapping together buttery smooth parts, forming a 1/100 scale Gundam grunt legend, but instead I was mangling my fingers with poorly fitted parts covered in weird shite that was drying out my hands. Sometimes life leads us to a crossroads. Sometimes we make the right decision, sometimes we pick the Gangsuosi. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and by popular demand, you guys asked for this right here. I'm going to be checking out the Black Trojan Horse Gangsuosi, or also known as the Gunzilla or the Gunzoid. It goes by a whole lot of names, but it's basically a combination of Godzilla plus Gundam with a little bit of Eva thrown in there for, you know, good measure. I'm not sure exactly how much I paid for this. I'll throw it up on the screen right now so you can see yourself. More than likely a whole lot more than if you actually bought it in Asia. And of course I can't really get into it without actually mentioning that this is a stolen design from this guy right here on Twitter. They just basically lifted it entirely and he wasn't too happy about that. I guess he can't really fight for it too much either because it is based on multiple Japanese IPs already. Anyway, what can I say? Let's bust it on open. When it comes to the box, you've got a little bit of a white sleeve. Pull that away and we've got a cardboard box inside. Good and strong. Open it up and we've got some bags of runners inside. So kind of typical of a Chinese model kit and kind of similar to what we would have seen recently with some Modoroid kits. But so the presentation and the quality quite similar. When it comes to the actual parts in here, again, this is kind of the same plastic you would see in something like a Modoroid. It's a little bit more rubbery, not really as fine and nice as you'd see in a Bandai kit, and not quite as nice as an SNAA kit either. The molding is quite nice, and overall, the pieces look pretty good. We do have some clear parts in here. They catch the light nicely in a nice shade of pink. We have water slide decals included too, and we do have a bit of a manual here, which kind of shows all the elements this is made up of. So Gundam, Godzilla, and a little bit of Eva there. So there might be an Eva version coming out in future because there is one off to the right, and the actual manual is just laid out in a usual kind of manual kind of way. It's easy to read and easy to follow. Alright, so I've got one leg complete, and I will admit it does look okay. However, the build of this was not as nice as I had hoped. As you can see, there's a little bit of fitting issues here that you can noticeably straight away, and there's a lot more inside. When it comes to the articulation, it is quite stiff, and it is reasonably enough designed. Not too much going on down here. Okay, I take back the reasonably well designed. Maybe not so much. The knee is okay. Rest of it, definitely quite basic. But yeah, this is finger-breaking level of squeezing things together. I recommend getting a pliers or something like that in order to squeeze some of the bits together. Now, usually when it does come to the actual building of a kit, I'm able to show it like while I'm just building like this, but that's not the case because the fit's so ass. These things don't really fit together straight away, so there's a lot of kind of pushing and pulling, and you know, it'll eventually get on there, and that's not even the worst of it. So it's not a smooth build, so not really something I can kind of show. Like, you'll be trucking along all fine and things will be working out decently, and then some parts will actually, this just pop together so simply. Actually, I'm really shocked because on the other foot, these two would just not push together. So, you know, there is kind of some quality control issues to some degree, but so far so good. So as you can see, the build-up of bits is simple enough, just kind of simple hinges, but again, the squeezing can be awkward. That wasn't too bad there. When there are multiple parts to push together, now it gets into it. Oh shit. This, man. Ooh, if you ever want to test your grip strength, this'll do it for ya. At times I do resort to the old needle nose pliers. This isn't the greatest because you can end up marking your plastic. I feel like I wish I had some kind of like rubber tipped pliers. You can probably get one to do just this and squidge everything together where it needs to go. It's still, woo. So yeah, when it does come to the build of this particular leg right here, it's kind of a mixed bag. Like, for everything that works out fine and connects together simply, you hit one part that just doesn't budge at all and just will not squeeze together. It'll be squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and nothing. You have to push it against the desk and squeeze on down it. You need a mini desktop hydraulic press for some parts, then other parts attach together so weakly you think they're going to fall off. Like, some parts just do not get along at all. Now, this is kind of usual fitting issues in lower end kits. You need to drill some holes, all that sort of stuff, but the problem with that sort of modification is you can end up loosening things up. Feels like the really tight parts in this are usually around joints. The joints themselves are actually quite fine, smoothish, but the actual holding together inside of the joint is ridiculously strong. I guess they're trying to design maybe a really tough feeling model kit. I think I might be giving them too much credit there, but maybe they are. But it does mean a lot of things just don't fit, they're awkward. Some things do, and you get a lot of kind of seam lines and parts that just don't fit together fully in the end out of box. Honestly, so far, not the greatest build experience, and I feel when it goes to the arm, because I've already built one arm right here, it just gets worse. Look at that hand. It's kind of hilariously ridiculous. Anyway, let's build it. So anyway, when the arm right here is complete, this is what you get. There is 2 joints to it. When it being the elbow like this right here, the detailing is not too bad. The shoulder joint is an absolute nightmare to put together. I'm not going to mess around with it right now. And the hand can be a little bit funky. We do have articulation at the fingers, which is quite impressive. It is comically large, as you can see, and overall, it's okay. So first up, you build the fingers, and overall the fitment of parts on this kit is kind of, well, shit. I noticed through a few of these fingers that you kind of had to go inside, I guess, female aspect of the parts that connect together and cut away one of the little notches that holds the finger on, because it's just too much pressure. Sure, if you got it on, it's probably rock solid for life, but just squeezing it on doesn't really work out, so I had to kind of just lop one off so I could pop them on smoothly. The finger still works fine, it holds on great. The fitment of the tip is a little on the funny side. When it comes to the build of the hand, we have a ball joint attaching on the thumb. We've got another rotating joint on a bit of a hinge for the wrist. You jump to the other side and then you attach in 2 fingers that are attached together like so, and then one which is independent like that right there, and then you just slap both of those parts together. I was just actually moving it around, the tip of that finger came off because it just doesn't fit on all that well. Sure, there is articulation, but I don't really like interacting with the fingers too much because the fingertips themselves just feel like they just don't fit in quite right. They're always a little on the awkward side. Overall though, articulation is impressive, definitely. Also, I will mention on both hands, no matter what I did, the thumb just does not seem to fit onto the joint down here. No matter what I tried, both hands, same issue. So when I did build the other arm, it was this shoulder that was the biggest issue. Now, this is the circular peg, and the hole is almost kind of squared off to some degree, which is an odd design, definitely. It goes through fine, so this isn't really the issue. As I've found with this kit multiple times, it's the part in the center of these joints which is just so tight. So this will squeeze fine to a certain point, but then just get absolutely stuck. Alright, I just put it down on the desk, stuck the handle of a needle nose pliers in here and pushed with all the force I had and it just popped on in. So yeah, it takes a lot of squeezing. The strange design does continue. What we've got right here almost looks like you've got a kind of keyhole locking mechanism going on in the upper arm, but the peg right here is just a kind of normal ass peg. It does fit in fine and rotates fine and all that, but just a strange design. The shoulder here is another one of those parts that just kind of doesn't fit. It just doesn't want to go in there because of this peg right here. The same then happens on the other side, so I find you're trying to fit things, then taking them apart, widening holes. It just isn't a whole lot of fun. Next up, we're finally getting the hand into the mix. You just pop it in there like so. Lost that fucking thumb again. Another bit of an awkward fit to this area down here overall. And then finishing it all off with this little bit of armor that attaches onto the back of the hand like so. So yeah, that was not fun to put together, and definitely not fun to put together twice. Crotch unit. It actually says crotch unit. Alright, so speaking of the crotch unit, you jumped right on into the center. So the center aspect has nothing going on inside of it. It's just these hollow sections that attach together. And that's what I mean, like some parts just attach together fine. It seems to be mainly around joints that seems to be a bit of an issue. Next up, we start building up the tail, which is a series of elements just like so. So far, so good. Try not to drop the pieces all over the shop. And it builds up kind of like a chain. On either side of these kind of little joint elements, you attach on the other side, pinning them together. So far holding nicely, attaching nicely. And then you start to actually connect it onto the body. So first part slots on in like so, link in a piece we built, the next segment, next element we built, and then you finish it all off with the tip of the tail. This is the way it says to do it. So you end up with this kind of open section, and then you start to close up all of those elements like so. That's why I wondered why they said to put the whole side on at once, because it's just going to fall off. The fit here, not too bad. The tail can move just like so. It tends to kind of just go back on its own though, a little bit bouncy. There's some up and down as well again. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's actually pretty good. That's a cool tail, actually. Not bad at all. Next up, you jump right on into the side skirts, so they attach on like so, with some extra parts which pop in via a ball joint. So the fitting there, not too bad. Attaching these skirtings, they pop onto the back, just like so. And this is one of those situations where I feel like I need 3 hands. Maybe that one will balance there while I grab this and throw. No, it will not. All right, attach that on somewhat, then pop these in and squeeze it the rest of the way in. So far, these bits are working out not too bad. The front skirtings are these bits in solid yellow. There is no back to them. They just attach on like that. First use for a clear piece here. This is usually yellow in an actual Gundam. It's part of the kind of marking on Federation suits that pops in between these two here. A bit more red for on the front like so. And then this just pops on like that. And there is the waist unit finish. This is not so bad. Not as bad as the limbs. The tail movement is okay up and down. Not great side to side. The design of these side skirts is fairly decent, honestly. Overall, not too bad, I guess. Alright, so now moving on into the body, we add this little bit of a moving joint up where I think the neck will be. Sandwiches between 2 parts, again the fit not bad here. Attaching on the ab crunch, feeling a bit loose so far. Second part attaches in like so, tightens it up a little bit, again no fitting issues. A little bit of Gundam-y color. Some pink detail attaches onto the side here. A whole bunch of red sections down here. A little bit difficult to attach. This little one cracked when attaching too because of the big seam that's running up here from it not really pushing together too well. At this point we do have a choice of colors for the chest. That is a white section as well as the blue. As far as I know in the original design it's blue, so that's what I'm going to go with. That then layers over with the clear pink segment. The yellow Gundam looking clavicle section is 3 parts, so that is the front section and 2 of these articulated little bits that can move out and back like so. Some parts then pop in at the shoulders like this, and then you just layer on these parts with some pegs on top. These can rotate around. Next up, you're going to be building the venting inside of the chest, which is 3 moving little flaps like so, or little fin sections. They work out pretty well. They pop in like so, and then you have to attach them into the side of the chest. And again, the fittings here are working out okay. I don't know what was going on down at the legs. I think it's just the joints in the legs and the arms. Not too bad. All of these do feature like a little bit of movement so they can move up and down, and they're the kind of typical Gundam chest vents. Next up, we have to attach this upper chest section, and this has similar attachment points to parts we would have seen in, I think it was the kind of ankle armor, and these actually fit fine. So I don't really know what was going on down in the legs and arms again. Kind of working out okay. Well, that does line up a little on the crooked side, but okay. So next up we add on these little sections up here, which I assume are for the beam saber-esque weapons, and you do have 2 choices when it comes to these. There is some in grey and some in white. I thought the grey might look a little bit on the dull side. We'll check them out a little bit later on, but they just pop up there. And there is the torso complete. So overall this worked out a lot better than I thought it was going to. Interesting. The best part of the build so far. Alright, now we're moving on up to the head, and this is wild. It's gone from like really bad to decently good fairly quickly. So there's 2 joints in the neck, one here, and a ball joint up top. Sandwiches in with fairly fine fitting, just you have to make sure to line it up right. So next up we've got the lower jaw section to make. So this is it right here. So we do have some nice red, white and grey color separation. I will mention the white section right there. There is grey parts included if you want the lower jaw to be grey. That right there is the cross section of what the head looks like once you're putting it together. So we've got a ball joint to the neck. There's the articulated jaw. Then you attach the upper jaw, the eye, and the head. Now, the reason I'm not doing this actually, on camera is because it doesn't really happen so fluidly. But anyway, that's what it looks like. So we've added on some more armor all around the head so you can see the general Godzilla Gundam shape popping in. The armor just slides on in from behind, so it's simple enough to attach. And finally finishing it off with that Gundam V fin. Now, the actual Ava pointy little segment is actually included in this box, so I guess it is an option in case you do want to paint it, or maybe they'll be releasing an Ava colored one in future using the exact same mold. So that's the head complete. Alright, so there is the Gunzoid, or whatever you want to call it, all ready to be put together. So let's see how the final assembly does go. Again, the legs did cause some issues. I did actually fit a couple of parts on backwards, so I did have to disassemble one of the legs. These are just standard pegs, big strong pegs, so they hold on fairly well. Same with this right here, just a standard, it just lost a piece, just shot right off there. On with the arms. This is actually bigger than I expected it to be. This is more almost like the size of a master grade Gundam kit. Okay, on with the other leg. And by leg, I mean arm, because that's an arm. And those shoulders are tight. And finally then, the head just pops on just like so. So that's what it looks like finished. It's a little bit awkward feeling to pose. We've got some tight joints and some kind of weak joints and some parts that didn't really fit together. The legs and the arms are definitely the worst offenders here. So next up in here, believe it or not, we've got some weapons, starting with a rifle, which cracks me up. The concept of a Godzilla type creature with a fucking rifle is hilarious to me. This seems to be nicely designed. We've got multiple colors in here, including a lens. Then have a little bit of a front section here. So it seems like it's got a little bit of a break in the front that you're able to open it up. Again, a fierce amount of fucking squeezing on this kid. Hell. Okay, I'm kind of taking back what I said a second ago about this seeming like it's nicely designed. Anyway, it opens up like so, like that, and can close again like that. You pop a barrel section on the front so you can see it's nicely color separated. This is a little more wiggly than I'd like it to be. And overall, it seems to be a little bit of a take on an Ava rifle by that little bit there at the end. Just kind of a little shorter, cut off version. We have some swords in here. They look like this, but there is an optional build. Instead of the blade, you can actually attach in this rod style section, and Jesus Christ, they're squeezing on this yoke. Fucking hell. It looks kind of like that, but the blade goes in easier, so fuck this. It looks nicer anyway, and it actually fits, so I take it back. It's not fitting. I don't know why the first one gave me absolutely zero issues, and this one right here is just overly tight for the blade to pop into. Yeah, that just doesn't want to go in. Fucking hell, I really wish I had gone for the Stark Jeggin, not this thing. Yeah, it goes in a little something like that. When it fits, the beam sabers in here, they have a nice little kind of, oh look, that fit. Kind of little blasting segment right here. So we do have two of those, and once again, there is a choice here. That is of the darker handle right there, and I guess that's it. Guess it's done. One thing that actually tickles me a little bit is there is a little bit of a base adapter section in here. I'm pretty sure that's Bandai's own kind of style there. So yeah, to add insult to injury, as well as just ripping off the RX-78 too, they're ripping off their stands too, so you can use Bandai's actual stands with this kit. So jumping right on now into the aesthetics, and there is the black Trojan horse Gunzilla in all of its glory once put together. And I will mention, it doesn't really look that bad. Overall, not too bad, but I will mention off camera while handling this, it is absolutely bringing my piss to a boil. It's such an annoying kit to touch. The thumbs just fall apart all of the time. There's some other issues as well, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. As you'll see right now, I'm not going to touch it too much. But this section right here is called aesthetics, so we're going to be talking about the aesthetics of it. Now, overall, again, it doesn't look too bad. If you build this and pop it up on your shelf, it does look cool from some angles. Looks incredibly awkward from other ones, mainly because, well, I'm guessing they only had one point of reference to, design this from. But either way, yeah, from one angle, it looks good. From pretty much other angles, it can look a little bit on the funny side. There's issues, there's some nice things, but overall, as a finished package, aesthetically, it does look pretty nice. But the biggest question I would have had personally, before building this is, just how big is it exactly? So I will mention, you probably noticed I've had it from this angle so far, because if you do turn it to the front, it does look a little bit on the funny side. Anyway, if you're wondering how big this thing is, it's about 20 centimeters tall, which is just under 8 inches at about 7.87 inches. When we're talking gunpla, it's much larger than a high grade, still somewhat larger than a master grade surprisingly, and it is a good deal smaller than a perfect grade, but still a fairly large kit. It falls between master grade and perfect grade, towards the master grade side. So I would say it's more master grade sized. For example, if I do throw in a bigger master grade like the Narda Verka right here, you can still see it falls into the master grade spectrum in the medium kind of size range. As for beside a couple of Godzillas, there it is side by side with Bandai's skeletal Godzilla model kit, and beside an SH Monster Arts. So when it does come to the model kit right here versus the art that it was, again, stolen from, just so you know, this is by @NKMR8 over on Twitter, or should I say X. And as you can see, it definitely falls short of the art without a doubt. The legs proportion to the body, to the head is much nicer and dynamic in the actual art, and it makes the actual kit itself look a little bit on the awkward side. I did try to kind of rejigger the kind of legs and stuff, but they're very short in comparison to the art, and the upper body is a lot larger. It's just missing a lot of the dynamic subtleties and awesomeness from that particular art. Overall though, let's get in a little bit closer for a closer look. So when the proportions may not necessarily be it, the individual elements are quite nice. The head did take a lot to build up, the lower jaw is a little on the fragile side, but overall not too bad. Some nice paneling, some nice detail, and the color separated eyes are nice. I will mention that the black around the actual eye lenses is not there, so you just have a big old piece of pink for the eyes, but overall again not the worst. All the parts don't really fit entirely flush together, but not too bad overall. Again, you can tell they did not have the original artists on hand because again, it only looks good from the perspective that they had an actual source from, because when you look at it from the front, it looks a little on the funny side. Kind of looks like a gurney old man. But from the side, it does look pretty cool. I will mention we do have an Ava almost unicorn-esque horn instead of the V-fin, if you do prefer. Moving down now to the torso, and this was actually my favorite part to build. The detailing here is nice, the individual vent flaps look great, the colors overall are extremely nice. I'm definitely digging the shade of blue, which is a little bit more on the lighter side compared to your standard Gundam blue. Again, from pretty much every angle, the torso does look nice. The red parts are done well, the blue parts, the clavicle around the neck, everything about the torso, even the build was very enjoyable. Around back too, it does look nice. The paneling is very nicely designed. Again, they wouldn't have had a reference for the back as far as I know, and they did a good job. We do have 3mm hard points here as well for the weaponry, a little bit of a spine gray bit at the bottom, and overall, well done. The shoulders are simply designed. We do have some hollow parts on the inside. We don't actually have any nice grey layering underneath these like we do on these skirting armors, which is a little on the sad side. The panel lining here overall is nice. The fit on the shoulders wasn't great. I do feel the limbs are a whole lot worse than the actual core of this kit, which is an odd thing to say. Again, the paneling design and the overall surface greebles and stuff nicely done in the arms. We have some panel lines, greebling, some layered white and grey detail, and overall not too bad. I will mention though that some of the surface does have that kind of like blurriness to a lot of the edges that isn't too premium looking, but overall not bad. Now the hands here on this kit, these are the absolute bane of my existence because the thumbs keep falling off. They don't attach on that well. They've popped at the ball joint, but mainly it's the tip as well as the joint that just don't fit together at all. The other fingers give me no issues whatsoever, just the thumbs. It's been exactly the same on both sides, so I'm not looking forward to trying to stick some weapons into these, so I guess we'll see what happens. They look okay. Honestly, didn't mark up that much because of the kind of rubbery plastic in here. Overall, okay. Moving down to the crotch unit as the manual calls it, and again, one thing that kind of strikes me as odd here is that little V being in pink on this as opposed to being in yellow. They're not pulling any punches about what they're ripping off with this kit, but why decide to not make that yellow and make it a clearer pink? Doesn't really pop too much against the red, and there isn't an option of yellow in here. The rear skirting armors back here are very nicely detailed, lots of nice panel lining, red section holding them on in between, and very nicely layered. We do have some grey coming through from underneath. Overall, the design of the tail is quite nice. It is kind of killing me a little bit with the kind of splitting of the plastic, so we do have a lot of seam lines. This is all over the place. The plastic just kind of rejects itself in that kind of rubbery plastic kind of way. As far as I know, it's not made of ABS or anything like that, but it kind of has that feel to it. The legs in this kit make me a little bit sad because to me in that original design they're one of the most interesting aspects because they are almost reverse jointed, bestial, animalistic. But on this kit they just went with kind of normal ass knees, so it kind of gives it this, well, bow-legged rickets kind of look as opposed to, you know, bestial Godzilla-esque legs. It was definitely a choice. A bad choice. Again, the panel detailing and the panel layering on these does look extremely nice. I'm not sure if I can panel line them because I don't know what it's made out of, so I didn't. But yeah, overall there is a nice design at this kit's core. Again, because of the original art being very nice, but this kit doesn't necessarily pull it off. I'd say about 75%-ish, but otherwise it's dropping the ball a bit. Now, I will mention that is completely throwing this kit under a microscope. Like when you're in close to any model kit, you're gonna find bits that don't look really all that great. But when you actually just take it as it is, like this right here, it's just going to look pretty cool on your shelf as long as you line it up from this angle. Never have it pointing out to the front. It will never look good. But from even from the direct side, it doesn't look particularly all that good. Has to be from this angle right here. But yeah, in the end, it'll be worth it on your shelf in between your Gundam and Godzilla memorabilia, and it's kind of just worth it for the meme value, really. So now jumping on into the accessories, and there's the Gunzilla Gunzoid Gangsuosi with absolutely everything that it comes with. First off, it can actually get into a decent enough crouch, so I will hand that to the kit. And what we get in here is a pair of beam sabers, a pair of swords with optional blade segments. We do have a rifle as well, which seems to be a variant of the Evangelion rifles. This seems to be an ammo, as far as I can tell from the instructions. We've got some 3mm to 3mm adapter segments for attaching the equipment, and we do have some optional build parts being the V-fin replacement, the cockpit replacement, and a grey lower jaw, as well as a base adapter. So I guess we better check this stuff out and hope the Gunzilla holds itself together. All right, let's see what it can pull off. So I'm going to start off with, I guess, the beam rifle. Okay, so first off in here we have the rifle again, nicely designed, somewhat inspired, let's say, by the Evangelion weapons, but a little bit more snub-nosed, shorter. We do have some nice separation overall. Popping it together is a little bit tough, but it holds together in the end, mostly it seems. This has a bit of a gimmick where you push back this side, it breaks open at the front. You've got a little bit of a cartridge that apparently pops in here, just kind of 3 holes in there, and then you can close that over it. Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, ammo inside. All right, so apparently this weapon's going to be attaching in here. The hands are a nightmare. So, they lost a fucking... Ooh. Yeah, the fingertips just fall right out. You can push them all the way in, you'll get them in, but it just takes next to nothing to push them out. Oh, man. Let's see. Let's try that again. For fuck's sake. Man, if I just chose that other path, right now I'd be trying to maybe get some cool equipment onto a master grade Stark Jeggin, but instead I'm trying to shove an oversized peg into a hole it doesn't fucking fit into. Oh my god. Oh, no. Just doesn't fit. Yeah, not a hope. That's not fitting without modification. I'm just going to throw it in a little bit of a pose just for the old lark. So there it is attached on. Well, I use attached very loosely because it is attached very loosely, aka not at all. It's just kind of balancing on there. And I will say, this only looks about 10% as ass as it feels. This thing is awful. I've lost like every fingertip on that hand just trying to get it into the hand. For what? A weird ass rifle in a Godzilla Gundam's hand that it can't even really pose with. Like, what sort of pose would it stand in to fire this? I mean, like, next weapon. All right, as they say, in for a penny, in for a pound. If I'm going to mildly torment myself, I might as well completely torment myself. So it has a base adapter, dog hair not included. It's kind of a little saddle with a Bandai end on it, so I'll try it in a Bandai stand. According to the instructions, it slots up under the tail like this. I guess it gets held in by the tail. It's holding on quite loose. And from the look of it, this should fit on a Bandai stand. So yeah, there we go, up on the stand. So I'm going to try and get him into a little bit of a pose with this pair of beams. Now, I will mention there are beam sabers here as well. They look just like this right here, but the swords are a little bit more interesting. You can go with the gray bottoms right here, or the white ones that are up here in the shoulder for more of a Gundam-y kind of look. I assume they all kind of perform the same. Time to see now if there's any chance in hell these will pop into the hand. Something tells me they're going to pop in super easy, just to spite me. No, none of these things fit. Oh, there we go. That clicked in. That wasn't so bad. That just went bang right on in. Okay, so there is weapon the first. Try to pop in the other one. Lost the entire fucking thumb again. I'll also mention the neck is this weird thing where it hits a point and then just jumps. Yeah, just jumps. So if you want to get it to just between here and there, well, too bad. It's just gonna jump. I don't know why. And there we go. I actually legitimately tried. That's the best pose I can get out of the Gunzoid right here. The wrists don't actually pivot like that when turned round, because the pivot and the rotation are on different kind of things, so it can only pivot forward and back that way, so that's why I can't get the arm pointing any more forward. But there you go, a giant mecha Godzilla kind of robot that you know, is hilarious, is probably its best aspect. Alright, I've been dreading this since I started putting this together. It is time for the articulation, and I don't know if this is going to survive it. Now, first off, I will mention that this is a kit that is very, very kind of solid. If you're just going to build it and put it up on your shelf, it's rock solid, it's quite good. A little bit of teeter at the ankles where you kind of wouldn't want there to be, but anyway, it is very solid. It's very tight in some aspects. The arms are insanely tight. There, I already lost a fucking thumb. They're gonna have to glue those, or they're an absolute loss risk, because like I put them in with the needle nose pliers, there's no getting them in. It's like they just don't hold at all. But anyway, yes, shoulders super tight, and then you've got aspects like the hands that are super loose. Anyway, let's try and get this into the usual pose. Wish me luck. Alright, so getting into the usual pose, and it was starting out fairly okay. Things were fluid enough, not too bad, but every time I think this kit right here is doing okay, that's when it does something like this. The arm just flew off. Now this, well, I might as well just talk about it. Just like I did mention during the build, these are some really odd joints in the top of the arms right here. The actual shoulder joints are ridiculously tight. I mean, so tight, and this particular joint is just really piddly, really weak, and really crap. So it does mean like they fight against each other, and that bicep swivel is always going to lose. However, that's what I got in the end. The articulation's just kind of limited at the foot. You know, if you could bend this a little bit more, or even bend it a little bit more, it would get like this. So it's not the worst. It's just not necessarily all that functional. It can get into a sort of a pose, but just like, well, most of the time, it looks incredibly awkward. But anyway, that right there is it for the review, and there's the score up on the scoreboard up in the left-hand corner, and I think you may agree with it. All I can say is this thing is equal parts terrible and equal parts hilarious. If you build it as is and just stand it as is, it doesn't look too bad from a kind of 3/4 sort of perspective. Turn it to the front or to the side, it looks a little awkward. Try to get any of the weapons into the hands and they kind of get silly. I mean, like, putting a gun in its hand or a pair of swords just kind of takes away from its cool Gundam Godzilla sort of feel. The beam sabers up in the shoulder might be enough. Maybe pop a beam saber in one hand, it mightn't look too bad. But overall, the kind of additional weapons Black Trojan Horse threw into the mix kind of just make it a little silly. Articulation's awkward, parts fall off, especially on the hands. I've had some of the back just straight fall off as well. Nothing really holds together too well. So if you're looking for articulation, fun, ability to add and take off the various equipment and all that sort of stuff, you won't get it. If you're looking for a solid kit, you're not really going to get that out of box built either. This is just for the fun. It looks okay standing there between your Gundams. Someone might be looking through your Gundams and see it, have a bit of a laugh. It's funny. That's it. It's worth it for the meme value alone. But besides that, it's not really a kit I would really recommend too much. And personally, I wish I built the master grade Stark Jegan instead. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for another build. Oh, this was build 20 of 50. By the way. Alright, so just a bit of an update at the end of the video. I've got your man, by your man I mean the Gunzoid or the Gunzilla right here spinning around, and this has lost a ton of parts while just trying to pose it. This little bit right here, this just popped off while trying to take off the beam saber on the shoulder. That popped off inside. All the fingers are slowly starting to come off. So again, posing is not this kit's specialty. It actually holds together in poses very well, but doesn't really like to be posed around. So this is one of those kits that I say to build it, maybe pose it once or leave it in a cool standing position. Otherwise, you're going to have a fairly bad time. It looks okay, so that's its strongest aspect. Let it look okay before it falls apart. As always, this video right here and every single video I make would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches this video. And special thanks at the end of this video right here to those who support on the channel memberships as well as over on Patreon, including Caleb Engelhart, Joe, OG59061, Scotty Thomas, and Simon.